Fuck trends.
Okay, fuck trends.
Yeah, people that design for trends don't do anything timeless.
Or it's like a stylistic appreciation because of what they're coached into by culture.
Yeah.
And there's also like a sense of overwhelm from just the world's intensity. So you think you want minimalism, you think you want simplicity, but then you're kind of hungry.
Yeah, so when it's abandoned in like 50 years, 100 years, it's going to be abandoned one day.
Right.
Then the nature taking over.
And it will just dissolve away.
Because it's just the timber.
Right.
Next thing I knew, we were coming up with these boats. Boats floating between the trees on stilts.
Right.
And so that they could fit among the trees and just have these little outlooks.
Right. Happy Indonesian Independence Day. Today is August 17th, 2026, and I'm on the final day of the JIA Curated 2026 Design Festival. It's been a really inspirational 4 days where we've gotten many chances to actually go in depth and learn. I'm not a designer, I'm actually an engineer by training. So when I come here to a design festival, I'm a student, and I look forward to also bringing the gift of knowledge to those who want to learn more about how they can, I think, attain a higher quality of life, a good return on investment, and do something that is, in the end, beneficial for Bali, such that the land that you fall in love with, the land that you want to own property in, can actually be sustainable for other generations of future people who want to come here and enjoy, and fall in love with that magic that you first discovered when you first came to Bali. Yes, this festival does receive some criticism for its exclusivity and a sense of perhaps elite privilege. And correct, many of the designers here are on the higher end of the price spectrum, but I also believe that for any type of art, it does require boldness, and boldness does require investment. And so in a way, these, let's say, frontiers of where design is headed they need support. They need people to actually believe in it, just like startups, founders, any innovators always are facing headwinds in their pursuit of looking for the new frontier. So hopefully you'll stay with us today as we go through and look through all the different types of insights that we can gain from leading designers that can be applied to your investment or just in consideration when you decide to make a property purchase here in Bali or choose a management company. I decided to check out this one stall here. They have a really interesting concept, which is, I guess if all this trash and everything that's being dumped everywhere needs to find a return cycle, a circular economy, we need to appreciate what we can actually reclaim from waste. So at this stall, the materials like the chairs, the glassware, the spoons, and even the metal are actually reclaimed from industrial waste. And I think that's a positive thing. So it gives incentive for people to separate trash if there's actually a demand to get the separated plastics out in the first place. So yeah, small little baby steps I think that can support a better Bali. One of the things I really like about this type of design right here, this type of biophilic design right here, is the idea of heat management. So if you've been to Indonesia during the summer months, which is ironically winter months in northern hemisphere countries, then the real problem is actually how do you get rid of all this heat because it gets so hot. Well, the dumb way is to, of course, use air conditioning to then spend more energy to get rid of energy, right? I mean, that makes no sense at all, but the smart way could be just to put vegetation on the outside, so you're kind of capturing solar energy, but not really also adding any more to the heat envelope or the thermal heat island effect, which is kind of a cool way to, you know, just design more consciously. The festival is running out of food except for one place, one location. Never dry here, always got lots of drinks, and the grill is always going on over there with lots of meat. So take a quick break over here to kind of fuel up before the evening ends. But no, thanks to the hosts over at Luar. They do outdoor furniture over there. The guy who runs it, DJ, really cool comrade. Here's a quick shout out to our own company, Book Vista. If you are a property owner and you're seeking to get a valuation for how much your property is worth in these uncertain times, go to our landing page, put in your details, and we will send you a free valuation report based on estimates of discounted cash flow value. I'm back with Elora Hardy, and I think we have a design solution to some of the clear felling that we see of a lot of forests and such. Maybe you can tell us about it.
Well, I mean, most of the time you start with an agenda of like a brief, like you need to design a 35 square meter room or an 85 square meter villa or suite or something. Mm-hmm. And if you instead start with like what your goal really is, like to connect with the forest, if you have the luxury of a bunch of trees and you want to be there in them, right, then maybe you take the stand not to cut any of them and like weave yourself in between them. And so at Bamboo Window, we decided in the forest, like I looked at this side, I was like, that is a cliff. Like, how are you going to build anything there, Dad? Like, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. Next thing I knew, we were coming up with these boats floating between the trees on stilts. Right. And like narrow, like 2.5 meters wide, okay, so that they could fit among the trees and just have these little outlooks. Right. And they're on these tall stilts. Okay. And then you have to figure out how to wind the stairways and connect into them. Okay. No, so over at Architecture and Scale, we have the boats, but we hadn't finished the engineering on the stilts. So I thought, let's just show it without the stilts.
I think that's good.
Design so people will go there and think that it's just actually that we designed some boats, some canoes, but they're not. They're rooms.
I think that's a really good point, because what I see oftentimes is that this is an interesting fact. We actually did some data science work here. So we took about, I think, 100,000 Airbnb listings. We scraped all the images off, and we started looking at the rates. We tried to see what is the number one indicator of a good return on investment. Guess what it was?
What was it?
Harmony with the environment.
Well, did you actually quantify whether the ones that claim to have harmony with the environment do in any appreciable way?
It was a visual analysis.
So it was a visual analysis?
Basically, we took all the listing photos and we scraped all the listing photos, and then we looked at calendar occupancy looking forward for 90, 100, 180 days, and we looked at the daily price. We saw the ones that had... So those tended to have the highest average daily rate and the highest forward occupancy, which resulted in basically the highest return on investment.
And you're analyzing it from the photos.
Analyzing from the photos and looking for what is in common with all the actual data points, right? Yeah. So I think the way to capture value back is to really think about how to actually build the experience in the accommodation, like the way you guys are doing. So yeah, I'm trying to get more people to believe that investing in nature is actually the best investment in your own financial gain too as well. And not enough people want to listen to that.
Well, it's because people forget that we are nature. Like, why put a white box between you and everything else that is most similar to you? This is a pretty good relationship, like actually connecting with the texture of a natural thing.
Agreed.
And that's what we are. And instead we think that, we want a pristine, smooth, white.
Most people don't even know they want that. They just simply choose what feels safe.
Or it's like a stylistic appreciation because of what they're coached into by culture. Yeah. And there's also like a sense of overwhelm from just the world's intensity. So you think you want minimalism, you think you want simplicity, but then you're kind of hungry.
This is one of Charlie Hearn's projects, Elysium, at the Luna Beach Club inside Rwanda. So when you take a look at it, it's an entirely bamboo spiral, and it's got some remnants to a nautilus, one of the seafaring animals known for its chambers, but it's got a very organic vibe to it. Non-linear, meaning not straight lines, curves, and some ribs over here forming almost like a living body from this architectural shape. Charlie is one of our first guests at the round table talk, and a distinguished architect here in Bali, using many different media to create, let's say, stunning architecture. His approach towards architecture, we could say, I think in many ways contributes to, once again, increasing more harmony with nature, but also building stunning. What would the right word be in this case? landmark architecture that really defines experiences for guests coming from all over the world. Good work here.
Fuck trends.
Okay,
Yeah,
fuck trends.
Yeah, people that design for trends don't do anything timeless, you know? So it always has to keep being redone again. If you design for the eternal, the endless, it continues, it lasts, you know?
What's your eternal philosophy that more people, maybe more investors should embrace to have timeless architecture?
Well, it's an investment. If you're going to invest in something that doesn't, that creates an experience that lives with you, and that's something that doesn't follow a trend. You know, you're inspired by something from experiencing something new.
Excellent.
So that's, if an investor can go for that, because that's the danger. Too many investors see something that says, oh yeah, that works, that's successful, let's do the same as that.
Too late already.
When you do that, yeah, it's dead in the water.
Anything that you'd like to say in terms of what people should be doing collaboratively this year to make sure Bali is more sustainable or just headed in a good direction?
Yeah. Say no to building on rice fields.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
That's because that's the heart of Bali.
Yeah.
That's gone. What's the point of people coming here, right? So
Correct.
say no to that. Also, really push the clients. It's not always about, clients often would just say, okay, what's the cost benefit of all this?
Right.
Well, if you're doing something that's got integrity and is respectful of the land and uses it and integrates it, that's far more valuable in terms of costing.
Yes.
To keep a long-term sustainable development.
Agreed. So I was able to speak with the architect behind some of these maquettes here, and it's pretty interesting. So it comes from Japan, and in Japan they've already had overdevelopment cycles in the past, and what they've been able to learn from past mistakes, what they've been able to learn is that all structures and all things built on the ground, especially for tourism, come to a point where they become abandoned. And so instead of actually rejecting and thinking about how to make something that won't become abandoned, make something that can be moved. Make something that has a small footprint, so it doesn't need to cover too much concrete or foundations. And the small footprint also allows you to literally float above the space where the land is actually located, and also allows all kinds of benefits for animal life and water and all these other things to continue on underneath the vehicle, underneath the building. I think this is great. This is forward thinking. This is something that more people could eventually get to embrace, and it allows this land to be returned in a great way. We hope many more Balinese landowners will think about actually insisting upon this type of architecture on their land so that it is, once again, more in balance with things with Tri Hita Karana. We aspire that more Balinese landowners will think about actually insisting upon Tri Hita Karana principles on their land so that it is in balance again with nature. And I think that's the final note we can end on. Tri Hita Karana is a belief system that there can be harmony with the divine, harmony with humans, and harmony with nature. This is a critical point in Bali's history right now where you, as an investor, as a real estate developer, as an agent, or property buyer can decide, do you really want Bali to be a better place than you found it? If so, I think it's a good time to embrace great design. Embrace the mission of Tri Hita Karana because it's something I think both government, landlords, investors, and even tourists can get behind because it is in fact the original philosophy behind how Bali functions. This is Jing again with the Bali Business Review, and I hope we can save Bali before it becomes too late.